Hello everyone. So I have started this blog series called Ichigai with this quest version. So basically I talk out what are the problems I encountered while I was working with microservices, since this was my first encounter, and the kind of interesting solutions that I came across. So this specific video is the first in this series. So a better build tool for Java, Gradle. So I want to contrast between the Maven as a build tool because it was popularly used in our organization and I didn't quite like it. I will contrast it with Gradle. Secondly, I would like to highlight how we can use the build tools with a version control way, so that if it works on our machine, it should work on everyone's machine. So we'll talk about the wrappers there somehow. So to jump right in, if you look at the Maven, right? So how do we define dependencies in Maven? So if you look at the pom.xml file, this is the typical way you define dependencies. So basically you write the group ID, artifact ID, version if it's there, and so on. And the pom.xml follows an XML markup language. So the syntax seems too verbose to me, and the readability comes in between. Another thing, if you contrast this to Gradle, this is the build file for Gradle. So if you contrast it to the pom.xml, the syntax is very clear. If you look at it, for example, this is the group ID with just one colon. It is separated with a artifact ID. Now if there was a version, you will put another colon, it would be there. So contrasting it to one dependency here, which for 3-4-5 lines, it's just one line here. Even from the group, version, plugins, and the variables, it is all very clear in the Gradle YAML format. So another thing I wanted to highlight was the properties file, right? So this is what I noted. The properties here are very less because it's a demo app, but when you have a real production app, you have closed a lot of these kind of properties and it becomes very unmanageable. So to highlight this issue specifically, if you look at it, right, gRPC client hello service address. Now this prefix is common in both of them, but we have to write it all every time, and the readability also becomes a challenge here. So if you take it in contrast with the Gradle application YAML file, so the syntax is very clear. If you look at it, we don't have to repeat the prefix multiple times. So data source, username, password, driver class name, they all have only one name for each of this property. If you were to write this in a properties file, in a Maven properties file format, you would normally write in this way: spring.application.datasource.username, and then you will basically repeat for everything. So it would be one more field for password, one more field for driver class name, one more field for URL. So if you can see, even in the specifying the properties file, it becomes more clear. Another thing I wanted to briefly talk about was the wrapper thing. So if you are able to build a project on your system, it should be using the same Maven version on other systems also, irrespective of if it is Maven or Gradle. So how do we create a Maven wrapper? You basically try Maven wrapper. So in this way it will generate the wrapper for you, and now this Maven W will be generated, and you can check in this to your version control system like GitHub, and you can do Maven W Spring Boot run, and it will